An Ontario court ruling is opening the way for Canadians to seek damages for Iran's shooting down of a passenger jet. 85 Canadian citizens and permanent residents were killed when the Ukrainian Airlines plane was hit by Iranian missiles after taking off from Tehran in January 2020. More than 50 others on board had ties to this country. Canadian families of the victims had sued Iran, the country's leader, and Iran's Revolutionary Guard. An Ontario judge has decided in their favor, ruling that the downing of the jet was an intentional act of terrorism. Iran was not represented at the proceedings. Now, for more on this story, I am joined by Amirali Alawi. He's the secretary of the Association of Families of Flight PS 752 victims, and he lost his mother on board that flight. Joining me now live from Toronto. Amir, thank you so much for joining me today.
Good morning, Jennifer.
I want to begin, first of all, by asking you what this last year has been like for you personally. I know you've been involved, as I said, as a secretary with other families. What has this been like for you?
It's one of those, it is the surreal experience that we've all been going through. It's difficult to believe, and all the families are saying the same thing. We have been stuck on January 8th, 2020. Because, if we go back to that day, this thing happened amid, extraordinary tensions between Iran and the U.S. And the plane took off 3 minutes after it was struck down. For 3 days, they lied. They blamed mechanical issues, mechanical failure for plane crash. And then, after that, they had to confess that they had shut down the plane with 2 missiles. They blamed human error. After, just a little bit of research, it was clear to us that it was not the true reason for the downing. And ever since then, we have been fighting. It's difficult. It's an unspeakable crime that, so many lovely people, good people, innocent people have been, their lives have been taken away in the most unimaginable way. And the perpetrators are going by their business without any consequences. It's just torturous. And we've been fighting for a year. And, little by little, the truth is coming out. Mm-hmm. And we have been, yesterday we were kind of validated that what we are saying is not baseless. What we are saying is true and is based on evidence.
So let's talk some more about that Ontario court ruling, as we mentioned, saying that the shooting down of the flight was an intentional act of terrorism under the Criminal Code of Canada. What did you make of that ruling?
Truthfully, we have been calling this downing an intentional act for a while now, and we have been pleading to our officials that they need to take this seriously, that this was not simply an accident. We need to see justice and accountability. And it's sad that we have to be happy over a court ruling saying that our loved ones were killed intentionally. But, this is part of our fight. We have to go on. One thing that is striking is that we've heard from a number of families that before boarding the plane, their loved ones were asked whether they have American passports. So people who have American passports were screened out from boarding the plane. Why should they care about American lives? But, so many Canadian lives were lost and they didn't care. This simply has to do a lot with our government's response as a country, how forceful we are to stand up for Canada and not allow this go on.
Amir, what would you like to see happen then? And you also spoke of justice, so let's talk about it in 2 parts. What do you want to see, first of all, in terms of justice after this ruling?
We haven't had closure. None of the families have had closure. This is why we are stuck on January 8, 2020. We know that the plane was struck down intentionally, but we don't know the full truth. We don't know who ordered it. We don't know the chain of commands. And the truth needs to come out. And the only place that we believe that the truth will be revealed is through the International Court of Justice, where Iran will have to be answerable. And we want our government to end these negotiations over reparations. This is meaningless. This is over intentional killing, and reparations is just meaningless. We have to take them to court. We have to find out who ordered it, why they did this, and they have to pay for it, and not just with the money. It has to be a lot more than that. We've been laying this out in front of our governments. We've been meeting with them, writing to the government, all levels, all ministries, and they keep telling us that all options are on the table, but it's time that Canada takes concrete action in Canada and outside.
Amir, it certainly sounds as though this has been all-consuming in terms of the time and the effort and indeed the almost activism that you have had to take on along with these other family members. So my final question to you is on a more personal note. Does a ruling like yesterday help you find the peace and the space to grieve your mother?
I can tell you that yesterday a lot of the families were crying, because it was an emotional day, but it only highlights why we need to keep fighting. It only shows us the way that we are still at the beginning of the road, and unfortunately we still don't have closure when all the perpetrators are walking freely with no consequences. It's just unimaginable that something like this can happen this day to a government like Canada, plus all the other countries, the UK, Ukraine, Sweden, and Afghanistan. And nobody is able to hold Iran to account.
I appreciate you taking the time to share with us how you and the other families are feeling. Thank you so much, Amir.
Thank you.